I want to try to guide us through the discussion in the chapter competitive market. Um, the competitive market is opposed by, say, a monopoly market. Okay, so in this text, we're going to talk about one is many buyers and many sellers. That happens, you get certain. On the other hand, the opposite of that would be a monopoly market. So an example of a competitive market would be something like a farm product, like I'll pick corn. All right, corn farmers are in a very competitive market. Whereas the cable company is an example of a monopoly. There's only usually one cable company in town. You got one choice. That's it. You either buy what they are offering or you don't get it. Okay. Now the revenue chart that's in your text is something you should study. This is the revenue chart, how it would work for a firm that's in a competitive market. Lots of competitors. First of all, the price doesn't change no matter how many they make. It doesn't change. They have no ability to affect the price. They just take the price. So this is for price takers. And the total revenue then would be the number of gallons they produce times the price of 6 gets them 12 and so forth. Then average revenue would be the 12 divided by 2 gallons gives them 6. And marginal revenue is the difference between where they're at this level and to go to this level. Total revenue minus total revenue here divided by quantity minus quantity there. It turns out to be 6. So this is one of the characteristics of the competitive market. The price 6 at each level. The total revenue increases by the quantity times the price, and the average revenue stays the same, and the marginal revenue stays the same. All right? Now, this table puts the revenue characteristics onto the same chart with the cost characteristics. The cost characteristics for all firms, whether they be monopolies or in perfect competition, are the same. So we're going to see something like this. All right, total revenue, say for making 1 gallon, the total revenue is 6, price is 6, so 6 times 1. The total cost is in this case is 5. The profit is $1. The marginal revenue is the amount of revenue at this level minus the revenue at that level divided by the quantity there and the quantity there, which turns out to be 6. So the marginal revenue is 6. The marginal cost is 2, which is just 5 minus 3 gives you 2 over 1 minus 0 is $2 for marginal cost. So, and then the change in profit, which would be the marginal revenue, which I got in one place, minus the marginal cost, which is in another place. All right. So there we have marginal cost going down. It's going down because the cost curves are U-shaped, and the law of diminishing marginal returns is in effect for all firms. And what happens then is, where should this firm operate? Well, they maximize their profit when they produce either 4 or 5 gallons. When they go to produce the 6th gallon, their profit drops from 7 to 6. They have a marginal revenue go from 0 to go from 4 to 5. That's good. But to go to 6, they lose $1 and they drop down in profit from 7 to 6. So they want to operate there. They'll want to operate at 5. So that'll be the size of that particular operation. An operation that makes 5 gallons. All right. That's where the profit's maximized. They would not go farther. All right. Now, that all can be shown on the curves. We have here the typical cost curves that we've studied in the last chapter, and we're overlaying on that the demand line for a competitive firm. Since they can't do a thing about the price is constant all the way across. That's the demand. That's actually their demand curve. So where they want to operate, we learned from the previous table, is they would like to get where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. That level right there is where they will maximize their profit. Remember, their economic profit right here is going to be 0, but they will make an accounting profit. All right. So on this next one, we're looking at, in the short term, where a competitive firm is going to operate. Now, if you're in a business of making corn, the example I used previously, you're going to have tractors and farm equipment, and you're going to have a farm mortgage. That's all fixed costs. That in the short term, you can't do anything about those fixed costs. You got to pay those bills in the short term. So where you operate is covering your variable costs, at least covering your variable costs. That's paying the wages and for the material and things you need, and the gas and all that kind of stuff that you need to operate the farm. As long as you can cover in the short term all those variable costs, you keep operating. Where you'd like to operate is up here, at least here, where your economic cost, the economic profit is zero, because your economic costs are being covered by your revenue. All right. So that is the short-term situation for a firm that's in perfect competition. And in the long run, you can sell the farm and you can sell the equipment. You don't have to bear the fixed cost anymore. So in the long run, which most people describe that as being about a year, because that's about how long it would take you to sell everything and get out of the business. So in the long run, you're going to try to cover all of it. No longer is it okay to just cover variable costs in the long run because you had the time that it takes to get out of the business. All right. So that's kind of how the competitive firm looks at the situation. So let's take the question of who enters and who leaves the market. So in this particular situation, we're starting at a point where this firm has its marginal cost and marginal revenue cross at that point right there. And it's higher than their average total cost. So they're in a period right here where they're making a profit, an economic profit, which is really good, okay? A larger accounting profit. Here's a situation where not going as well. The price line is down here, where marginal revenue equals marginal cost is here. If you go up to there, that's the average total cost. They have average total costs higher than their price, which means they're losing money, all right? They're going to want to leave the market. All right, so here's how the movement in and out of the market exists, okay? We start with this point here. Here is the firm that's at the long run equilibrium where their economic profit is zero, which means they have an accounting profit. Things are okay. Then what happens is, in this particular example, there is an increase in demand. That red line means that there's been a shift in the demand. So for some reason, people want to buy more corn from our corn farmer. And that causes that situation to be one of profit for them. They have this short run profit because of this increase in demand. So things are really going good for a farmer now. So what happens is, if the farmer has a neighbor that got out of farming because of the loss of profitability, he looks and sees that his neighbor must be doing okay. He's got a new car. Things are going good. He decides, I'm getting back into business. So the people who were out of the business because the profit wasn't there to support them now find themselves looking at a situation where they think they can get back in and make a profit. So they come in, which shifts the supply curve from here to here. And what you end up in the long run is you end up back down here on this price line, where you have more firms in the market, but you are now all operating on average at an economic profit of zero. All right. So when that increase in demand hit, there was a short-term profitability for the people that were in the business. But then other people, because it's relatively easy for them to get into business, say, I'm getting back in. I can see that the profitability's up. And when they do that, they drive the supply line from here down to here. Now we have more firms making corn. There's more corn being produced, but everybody now is on average back making an economic profit of zero. So that's how the competitive market works. If you have any questions on that, please let me know.